Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, hello there. It's Thursday. I think I said that yesterday and I was incorrect, but today I am absolutely on the money. And it's October. Okay. 1. Well, I went to that first Pirate game yesterday, and that was incredible. That was fun. And my friend and I were saying, geez, maybe they should save some of these runs for the next game because, you know, we don't need them all here. We might need them later. And, oh, yeah, that turned out to be true. So, anyway, that's that. The friggin' Cardinals, yet again, take the division. And we got ourselves a wild card. Oh, you got to watch out for those Cubs. We got to keep... I know so many of you don't care. It's amazing to me the number of people who don't care about baseball. You know, when you care about something and you're talking animatedly to another person about it, and it takes you a while because you're so into it to notice the total blankness of their expression. And even the blankness can be already moving into annoyance and a look of panic, like, how do I get away from this person? You know, so I'm sorry. I'll cease and desist. So I hate to rub it in, but anybody, and it was most of you, who didn't attend the Freedom reading sponsored by the Carnegie Library and the ACLU last night, which I happened to MC, missed a fun hour and a half. It was just a perfect entertainment. And it makes me think of how there's so many things going on in this city every single night that if you were a conscientious soul, you would not be home any night. You would be out taking in this, taking in that. And I don't. I mean, the only reason I ever get into any of these things is because I'm pulled into them to MC or to take part. And I'm always blown away at the people who come out of their homes and come, take the time to drive somewhere, sit. And there's always the uncertainty that what you're going to see will not be fun or educational or entertaining, whatever it is you're expecting. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. Or as we say around here, if you don't play, what do they say? If you don't play, you can't win? Is that what they say about the lottery? No? You don't know. 'Cause I never bought a ticket in my life. Somebody said that to me the other day. If you don't play, you can't win. I said, well, I think generally speaking, when you play, you also can't win. So what the hell's the point? At any rate, I don't know how I rouse myself, but I wish we would all take advantage of the stuff and it's free. There's free stuff all over the place going on to stimulate, to even maybe encounter another human being, rather than sitting in our own little houses and apartments and watching television, you know. I'm just saying. So I wish more of you had been there because you would have had fun. And you would have been treated to some really good readings by some really good readers. Rick Seebeck read something from a book that I never could get through. But man, what he read, I was just... And that was 100 Years of Solitude by Marquez, who won a Pulitzer. And then next up was Terrence Hayes, who's a poet and Pitt professor and famously known for getting one of the McCarthy awards last year, one of those genius awards. And he read from Lolita. And Etta Cox sang that amazing song, Strange Fruit, about lynching, sung by Billie Holiday. And everything that was read and everything that was sung and everything that was done are things that have been banned. So it was all about what censors go after, and then to see and hear what they go after is just to be amazed, because generally speaking, what censors go after are the greats. It's the classics. It's things, and they're the greats because the being great and being censored seem to go together a lot. Because if a work of art, a book, a painting, a song is powerful, then it can be considered dangerous by virtue of its power by people who don't want it influencing others. So pretty amazing. We had a sing-along of all these songs that have been banned. And what fun. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the waters. To the waters. Anyway, why was that banned? Well, it was banned because it was sung by Woody Guthrie, and some of the stanzas were considered to be communistic because, well, just the very sense of this land is your land, this land is my land. The whole song is about, community. I'll get it out. And then when the Saints go marching in, that was banned at one point, at least the Weavers version of it, because the Weavers were targeted by Joe McCarthy and the FBI and considered to be lefties, which of course is just commies. And so they were essentially banned from the airwaves of America. You couldn't hear them. Their record label, Decca, stopped recording them, deleted their old records from their catalog because of their political point of view. Bill's telling me he has no sound. Does anybody else have no sound? And then famously things like Puff the Magic Dragon. I always hated that song. It was just so stupid. Treacly and stupid. Huh? Twee? What does twee mean? Cute. Yeah. Twee. Puff the Magic Dragon. I mean, it was like, for a 3-year-old, I suppose it's a great song. But what the hell? How did that get so popular? Anyway, the Illinois Crime Commission, after serious study of Puff the Magic Dragon, decided that, in fact, it was a song about drugs. Why? Because of the word puff? Why? Puff the Magic Dragon lives by the sea and frolics in a land called Honolulu. Little somebody. How is that a song about drugs? Which brings us to, of course, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which the Beatles have said consistently, I believe. It was not about LSD. All right. We had lots of fun. The Kinks, Lola, Louie Louie, Satisfaction, the Rolling Stone, Baby's Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, and Walk Like an Egyptian. We sang all those songs because they've all been targeted by censors. I guess you ain't a great book or a good song or anything if the censors don't come after you. But if they do, the odds are you got a great thing going. And you know what's so crazy is the censors never figure out. How have they not seen this? That any time you try to censor something, you only make certain that more people will access it. That's always the way it goes. You make a big hue and cry about, let's say, a movie or a song, which most people have never seen or heard. And then all of a sudden, they want to see it. They want to hear it. They want to decide for themselves. Why don't censors? Or you censor a speaker, right? This happens all the time on college campuses now. Oh, no, he cannot come because his views or her views are not politically correct, or they're upsetting, or blah, blah, blah. So somebody gets shut down. Well, and that gets covered. And then people think, wow, well, what would they have said? And then people look them up. And then why don't people who want to censor ever get it through their thick skulls that all they end up doing is aiding and abetting the dissemination of the very thing they find dangerous? It's almost as if you were an author and you wrote a book. You would pray that someone would try to censor it or freak out about it, enough so that maybe talk radio would start talking about it or something. And then you're golden. That's it. Weird. Listen, next year when they do this, will you come? Jeez. What fun. And think about getting out. I'm talking to myself here, really. I'm not talking to you. If I hadn't emceed that, if I hadn't taken part in it myself, I would have enjoyed it every bit as much as I did. What a good night. And I don't know. Okay, so here we are. Can we do the corrections from the Post-Gazette? That might get to be a regular feature, don't you think? I mean, I think it should be. Excuse me. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Nothing. Spam. It looked real. Okay, they have 3 today, and the first one is a doozy. You may recall, if you read the Post-Gazette yesterday, that there was an article that said that, UPMC is not the only transplant facility in town that has had a problem with mold infections. Because, UPMC is having a big problem with mold. 4 dead, as far as we know. And yesterday, the Post-Gazette did a story. Well, I'll read the correction. Mold has not been found in the transplant wing of Allegheny General Hospital. That's the correction, which means yesterday, and I recall reading it, they said mold had been found in the transplant wing of Allegheny General Hospital. Now, excuse me. That is such a huge mistake that it is very difficult to even comprehend how that got in to the paper. Now, here's how it got in, because it says a headline in a Wednesday story was inaccurate. So, the reporter must have done a story. The guy or whoever is responsible for headlines read the story and obviously got it totally wrong. But that headline, most people won't read a story. They'll see that headline. And that headline is damning to Allegheny General. Now, how do you make that right? You make that right the next day by a little teeny-weeny thing down here saying, never mind, mold has not been found in the transplant unit of Allegheny General. It's almost as that just isn't enough. I mean, if I were over at AGH, I'd be bouncing off walls. I'd be threatening lawsuits. Seriously. Okay. Here's the second one. This one's a doozy, too. Cannabis is a genus of plants with many species containing high amounts of the psychoactive chemical tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and often is used synonymously with the term marijuana. You know, first of all, tell us something we don't know. So essentially what they're saying is cannabis equals marijuana, right? And then here's the correction. Cannabis was incorrectly described in a story about e-cigarettes now being used for liquid marijuana. What do you mean it was incorrectly described? Who doesn't know what cannabis is? What did they say? I mean, I don't understand how the mistakes that are being corrected today are like, what? And whoever this reporter was, oh man, there's a second correction from the same story. When cannabis, whoever did the story didn't quite understand what cannabis was, apparently. And then it goes on to say, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Maine are 3 states that currently do not ban e-cigarette sales to minors. One state was incorrectly identified in a story about e-cigarettes, blah, 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 blah. Now, how is that a correction? Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Maine are 3 states that currently do not ban e-cigarette sales to minors. One state was incorrectly identified. Which one? Are we supposed to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo? What the hell? Or here, I bet's what it is. Here's what I bet it is. They probably said Pennsylvania, Michigan, Maine, and pick a state, Connecticut, do not. And so what they're saying is Connecticut didn't belong there. But the correction as it stands doesn't correct anything in my head. It simply doesn't tell me a thing. Corrections and, get this, they call it corrections and clarifications. I think not, PG. And whoever is doing these so-called corrections and clarifications, talk about misleading headlines. These are not clarifications. They beg a million other questions. That ain't a clarification. Jeez. All right, okay, I'm done. Ed was there. Ed writes, a great event, top flight talent from the MC, thank you, on down. I had not heard of the event until your show. Oh, man. Yeah, yesterday I plugged it. And then we even had banned cocktails afterwards. I don't know. It's too bad. I wonder all the things I'm missing. Like what's happening tonight? Oh, the Steeler game. But there's probably something happening that might even be more entertaining and more worth your while. Roger writes, come on, Puff's a sad song. Maybe it's simple and childlike, but it often makes me cry when I hear it, depending on my frame of mind and or alcohol usage. And Roger wants to know, does anyone agree with him? Roger, I think you might wait a long, long time for anyone who cries at Puff the Magic Dragon. What happens at the end of that stupid song? Puff doesn't die, does he? Does Puff die? Puff the Magic Dragon lives by the sea. Little Johnny blah, blah, loved that dragon, Puff, right? Oh, so it's like a little boy and his magic dragon, and something bad happens?
Oh no, the boy dies.
The boy dies.
Yeah.
He does? What is the lyric?
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, well, just get to the point where the boy dies. Jeez, I never even realized that.
Dragons live forever, but not
Oh,
so little boys.
dragons live forever, but not so little
One
boys.
sad night it happened. Jackie Paper, that's his name, came no more. And Puff, that mighty dragon, he ceased his fearless roar.
Oh, so the kid died and Puff the Magic Dragon ceased his fearless roar. Oh, Roger. All these years, I just got so turned off by the first few stanzas that I never, I guess, got to the end. The kid dies. And that got banned as being a drug song? What the? Who could have think that was a song? It's celebrating hashish. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, Roger, I'm not going to make fun of you anymore because, yes, that's very sad. I mean, I always tell the story of my niece crying at the cheese stands alone. The cheese stands alone. So, I mean, if I think that is adorable, then it's adorable that you cry at Puff the Magic Dragon. I mean that with all sincerity. All right. Let's get to the Russians. Jays! I know I said the other day I saw Putin, and I found him interesting, and not the... he definitely got fleshed out for me on his 60 Minutes interview, where I could tell he's smart as hell, and he's adept in an interview, and adept even at... he was actually a... I always saw him as a cardboard character, Mr. Macho Man. And no, clearly he's very three-dimensional and complex. But I got to tell you, what he's up to now in Syria, and this has to do with his wanting Russia back as a major player on the world stage. But what he's doing in Syria seems so potentially dangerous that it makes me exceedingly uncomfortable. Look at a map. Look at Syria. It ain't that big a country. Look at the world. Syria is not that big. Okay, so you already have how many people, how many different groups are fighting in that ravaged land right now? Okay, we know the president, the evil Hafez al-Assad. has his army, and he's fighting to maintain his power. And he's, without blinking like his father before him, killing his own people with no problems at all. And so there are Syrians who want to take him down that are not ISIS, that are not flipped out people. Although there are a million different little groups there. And they're even fighting, the ones who are trying to get rid of Assad are even killing each other. So you got all these disparate people all killing each other. What do you mean the boy's not dead?
What?
Hang on. Oh, here's how Lou understands that lyric. Lou understands the lyric as the boy doesn't die, the boy grows up. So the line again was, something lives forever, but not so little. Who lives forever? But dragons live forever, maybe, but not so little boys. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
He was dead.
yeah. Well, look, it can go either way. You can read it as, yes, little Jackie, whatever the hell his name is, grew up and stopped believing in Puff. And Puff. You can read it that way. But if you're a literal person, and I tend to be, I saw the way that lyric strikes me is maybe he died. But I got a feeling Lou's right. You know what else I think? I don't care. I have never given this much attention to Puff in my life. Oh my God, Chuck, on Puff. In Puff the Magic Dragon, the boy does not die. He grows up and doesn't believe in dragons anymore. There you have another one for that. And here's Josh. Puff the Magic Drag-On. So he's saying, there it is. The possibility that is a weed-smoking reference. Puff the Magic Drag-On. Well, look, there was a whole Illinois commission which I can imagine very serious men sitting around dissecting that. Okay, so Roger, maybe you feel better and now you don't have to cry anymore, but you maybe will anyway. Okay, so, and Josh also writes, no, the boy grows up and doesn't come back to visit Puff anymore. Well, maybe it's an anti-smoking song, then. The boy grows up and stops smoking pot.
Or if he dies.
Or he died from smoking pot.
Unlikely.
Wait a minute. I haven't gotten this many emails on a subject since God knows when. Here I am talking about potential World War III with Russia and the United States having warplanes in a little tiny spot of airspace, and all you guys can do is argue about Puff the Magic Dragon and little Jackie Papers? All right, fine. Whatever tickles your fancy, I understand. Okay. Milt went straight to Wikipedia. But, you know, Wikipedia is just, okay, well, here's what Wikipedia says. The lyrics were based on a 1953 poem by a 19-year-old Cornell University student. And that student was inspired to write the poem by Ogden Nash, one of my favorites. Ogden Nash, whose poem Custard the Dragon was about a Realio Trulio little pet dragon. I'd like to see the Ogden Nash poem more. I mean, anyone who doesn't know Ogden Nash's poetry is due to delight themselves by reading some of it. It's for people who think they don't like poetry. Don't worry, everybody likes Ogden Nash. Okay, so that's Wikipedia, and the lyrics, it says, tells the story of the ageless dragon and Puff and his playmate Jackie Paper, a little boy who grows up and loses interest in the imaginary adventures of childhood and leaves Puff alone. Because of the line, a dragon lives forever, but not so little boys, the lyrics may imply to some that little Jackie Paper dies. But most interpreters believe he just grew up. The story of the song takes place by the sea in a fictional land of Hanali. We knew this. Oh, so the guy, the Cornell student, Leonard Lipton, who wrote the song, was Peter of Peter, Paul, and Mary's housemate when they were all students at Cornell. And he used Yarrow's typewriter to get the poem out of his head. It's a stupid poem for a 19-year-old to write. That's sort of pathetic. What do I know? He then forgot about it until years later when a friend called and told him Yarrow was looking for him because he wanted to give him credit for the lyrics. And Yarrow gave him half the songwriting credit, and he still gets royalties. Well, there you go. Here's Custard the Dragon. I cannot believe... I can't keep up with these emails, guys. I can't. Okay, here's Ogden Nash, The Tale of Custard the Dragon. Does this go on forever? Close. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really-o, truly-o little pet dragon. Now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little gray mouse she called her Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward and she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had a big sharp teeth and spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really-o, truly-o daggers on his toes. But Linda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried out for a nice safe cage. Belinda tickled him, she tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink, and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the really-o, truly-o cowardly dragon. Roger, are you crying yet? Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said, "Week," which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. "Meow!" cried Ink, and "Ooh!" cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window. Pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that the pirate meant no good. Belinda paled, and she cried, "Help, help!" But Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little mouse Blink strategically mouseholed. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at that pirate like a robin at a worm. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him. No one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. Belinda still lives in her little white house with her little black kitten and her little gray mouse and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon and her really-o, truly-o little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice, safe cage. Ogden Nash, ladies and gentlemen. Woo-wee! 1936. That's cute.
Got a better one.
Huh?
Got a better one.
You've got a better one?
Better child's poem about dragons.
That's a better one than Puff.
It's a better one than that one.
There's a better one than that. Did you send it to me?
No, I can repeat it for you.
Oh. Celine says she's got a better child's poem about a dragon than that. All right, go ahead, but you got to do it into the mic.
Third grade.
Third grade. Did you recite this from in third grade?
did.
Here she goes, Celine, from her third grade reading.
Jack Perletsky.
What?
It's by Jack Perletsky.
It's by Jack. That sounds like me at my piano recital. And I will now play the Singing Brook by Jonathan Peters. Okay, Celine will now go ahead, do it.
What's the use of a
I
wagon?
can't hear you. Turn it up.
All right.
Jeez.
What's the use of a wagon without any dragon to pull you mile after mile? An elegant lean one, a gold-tinted green one, wearing a dragon-leaf smile. You'll race down the valleys, you'll sail up the hills, your dragon will shine in the sun. And as you rush by, the people will cry, I wish my wagon had one.
That's a good one. I wish my wagon had one. Jeez, guys. If I had thought driving in that I was going to spend an entire hour talking about Puff the Magic Dragon, I wouldn't have had to read the goddamn New York Times, which so depressed me because I'm thinking now we're going to have a war with the Russians. But I thank you mightily for this diversion. I'm just trying to work through your emails here, guys. Margie, Margie's saying, I was busy last night. I really couldn't. I'm not. I'm just saying. I just wish people would. And she believes in Puff. Okay. Chris writes, in honor. I hated this. In honor of Tom Sokolowski. Rabbit, rabbit. Don't you remember at the first of every month, Tom would say rabbit, rabbit? Because some people do that. When you said it was the 1st of October, I immediately thought of Tom. Since Tom usually was here on a Thursday, rabbit, rabbit. By the way, I never heard of that saying before Tom said it. I'm still not sure what the heck it means, but I think it every time the 1st of the month falls on a Thursday. Is that what has to happen? I don't know it either. I don't. And now listen to this. This is weird. Lynn writes, either your camera got bumped or your chair is moved, because most of the time we see the corner of your chair, occasionally the edge of your hair. Can you move your chair to the right? We're looking at it right here, and I'm there. She says, can you look on your website? It's also true on YouTube. It also appears to be zoomed in more than normal.
Well, we did zoom in.
Well, how odd is that?
But
Because we just brought up our website, and there I am straight on. What could that be? You want me to move to the right? Now do you see me? Because I've just moved off screen here almost. Huh? It doesn't make sense. I'm looking at the camera. The camera's pointing right at me.
several monitors.
Well, that is so weird. Aaron wants to say, since we seem to be taking a poll, I think the kid dies. All right. Although Milt's putting in for he grew up. And Robert saying, I miss hashish. Oh. All Are you? Jeez, guys. All right, I'm getting to you. I cannot believe this. Okay. Henry's telling me pretty much the same thing. Okay, from Wikipedia. Dorothea. After the song's initial success, speculation arose. As early as 1964, an article in Newsweek, no less, said that the song contained veiled references to smoking marijuana. The word paper is, the kid's name is Jackie Paper, was said to be a reference to rolling papers. And the word dragon was interpreted as dragon or drag on. And puff was alleged to be taking a puff on a joint. The supposition was claimed to be common knowledge in a letter by a member of the public to the New York Times. Well, gee whiz. Margie says Roger must be drinking already. Okay. I think we're done. I think we're done with Puff. I'm looking very quickly. William writes about Ogden Nash's poem about the dragon Custard. He writes Custard's Last Stand. Oh, God. That was funny. All right. Are we done now? Can I possibly continue? It's okay. I can talk about dragons. It's all right. It's better than talking about World War III. Although, I have been sent a story that is suggested that I mention, and it is a big story. It's true. Here's the headline. Bernie Sanders reaches 1 million donations. Faster than any presidential campaign in history. Wow. Well, part of that is social media today allows for that, for that kind of a thing to occur more easily. I will say that. But I also saw a piece in the paper today, and why did I not bring it in, that Sanders has raised. Oh, no, it was about Ben Carson, raising $40 million in donations in the last month or something. But that Sanders is pretty much right behind him. And where much of these guys are getting at super PACs and all that kind of stuff, Bernie Sanders does not have any super PACs or billionaires, I can assure you, feeding him money. So if if just regular, ordinary people are giving him money, whatever they can, $5, $25, that, and it is adding up to $1 million. That's pretty impressive. And he has more than that. It's 1 million donations, not $1 million. 1 million donors. That is impressive. That is impressive. Wow. Cool. So, because of all that, it says right here that the Clinton campaign is getting a little nervous. They're nervous on two sides. They are nervous that Biden is going to get in, And they are, if they're nervous about Bernie Sanders, they're not suggesting that. But they are nervous about Biden. And the campaign is apparently trying to get major Democratic money people to pledge that they will stay with Hillary because they're worried about where this thing is heading. It's going to be an interesting election. Caller, hi.
Hey, Lynn, it's Roger, and I am completely sober for the time being.
Yeah, I should hope so at this hour in the morning.
Well, I don't have a problem with well, never mind.
Okay, so don't you see now that it is? He doesn't die. The kid does not die.
Oh, I don't care if he dies. It's just that there's
the puffs
childhood innocence gone, and the poor lonely dragon.
Don't start crying now.
No, I'm not. Not yet. Yeah. Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Could he get the most quantity of donations that doesn't mean shit?
Yeah, it doesn't. No, of course, it doesn't necessarily.
It's like let's say 90% of the Democrats in the country say, "I want Bernie. Here's my piddling little donation. Please, Bernie, be our presidential representative in the race." But Hillary wins because she's got there's 5 or 10% of people who want her to be president. She gets it. And that's just.
I don't know.
Wrong.
I don't think that can happen. I don't think that can happen because there are these things called primaries in which delegates are doled out. If the majority of Democrats do want Bernie Sanders, they can make that happen in the primaries simply by voting for him, and then he would be the nominee. Whether or not an old Jewish socialist could win the presidency in this country is, I think, the bigger question.
I'm just sick of the Clintons and Bushes.
I am too. I don't
want to hear all the nastiness and investigations for 4 or 8 more years.
I know. What can I tell you? I feel your pain.
Oh, well.
To use, I think that was a Clinton. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, Roger.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye. Yeah. And speaking about Clinton and this idiot who apparently is going to take over the House speakership. I mean, we didn't know anything about this guy, right? He hasn't even been in Congress that long. Kevin McCarthy. He looks like he's the guy who's going to get it. And now he's trying to, show us that he's Rachel Maddow, I happen to be hearing her on my radio coming back from the banned books thing. And she was just belittling his experience. He has passed only 2 bills. 2 bills that he has, I guess, authored in his tenure. And both were naming buildings. So nothing of any substance at all. And then he went on Hannity last night and put his foot in his mouth, big time. Here's what he said, in case you hadn't heard it. Everybody thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, right? But we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee. What are her numbers today? Her numbers are dropping. Why? Because she's untrustable. But no one would have known any of that had happened had we not fought and made it happen. Okay, now, what that seems to suggest is he's made the classic error of a politician, and that is he spoke the truth. He said, essentially, Everyone thought Clinton was a shoo-in? Yeah. Well, then we did the Benghazi thing. And we did it to take her down. And look, we're taking her down. He didn't say anything about the poor murdered ambassador. It was nothing about any of that. It was getting Hillary Clinton. We knew that. How many Benghazi commissions have the Republicans put up? There have been 6 or 7. And in fact, even they can't come up with any evidence that any serious malfeasance occurred. And yet here he flat out says, not quite flat out, but clearly suggests the truth. And here's where you know he screwed up. His office later issued a statement saying that the Benghazi Committee's focus has always been on a serious and substantive investigation of the attack. That they felt the need to say that, no, this was not about taking down Hillary Clinton. So he screwed up already, and he ain't even the speaker, and he seems like a real lightweight. I bet that, those lunatics that Boehner couldn't manage, this guy ain't going to manage them. He's apparently very well liked. He's a hail fellow, well-met type who gets along with everybody and apparently will agree with whatever it is you're telling him. He talks to you, he listens, and then he turns around and talks to somebody who is diametrically opposed to what he just heard, and he agrees with him too. Well, that ain't going to work. Okay, let's put aside the fact that the Russians are playing with real fire. They're bombing the people that we're supporting. Because the people we're supporting are trying to knock off Assad. And he's trying to keep Assad. So we are on 2 different sides of this, even though Russia would like to do in ISIS, and we would like to do in ISIS. But ISIS is just one of the players in this insane scrum. And I think any nation going in and trying to untangle that mess or get it under control is doomed to failure. Why can't they see that? And all of the fiddling and meddling from outside, be it from us or from Russia, ends up usually just muddying the waters more, exacerbating the situation. And if you don't think that's true, then excuse me. I give you Iraq. I give you Afghanistan. You see Afghanistan? Cities we thought that were absolutely free of the Taliban are now being retaken. What? And here is an indication that we've entered essentially another war. The New York Times now is doing what it did during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And as you know, I read that little thing every time it appeared in their paper, which was names of the dead. And the New York Times would every week print the names of American service people who had been killed in Iraq or Afghanistan. And they kept the count. So it always starts the same way. The Department of Defense has released the latest names, blah, 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 and it bringing to 1,752 the number. So I was reading them because Americans weren't paying any attention to the fact that Americans were over there dying for what? again. So I have to tell you, I was taken by, I saw that little box in the New York Times again today. And for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to cut it out. Because it wasn't. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said that there are now 7. They had a name of some American serviceman, and he, I believe it was number 7 on their list. So I haven't been noticing this. They're starting a whole new list of people killed in the war on ISIS. Oh, God. And, you know what? We're going to end the show today on some more good news because, yeah, why not? And this actually comes from the New York Times, where you usually see such horror, and even from a columnist, where you usually see hand-wringing and horror. And this is from Nicholas Kristof, and he says media don't do the job. All they ever do is report the negative. And he said, and while we've been reporting the negative, extraordinary things have in fact been happening, and media do not pay any attention to it all. He said, you can just tell, because if you ask Americans, what percentage of the world would you say is living in extreme poverty? Americans always think that there's more than ever, or that it's even doubled. And in fact, if you add up the percentages of Americans who say, oh man, it's at least as bad as it ever was, or it's worse, you get 95% of Americans. 95, almost unanimous that Americans think that more and more people are living in poverty. And guess what? We're wrong. He says, the World Bank is the one who keeps a watch on this. And they say the proportion of the world's population living in extreme poverty has not doubled, as so many Americans think, has not remained the same as so many other Americans think. It has actually fallen by more than half just since 1993. And then he points out some other statistics. In 1990, more than 12 million children died before the age of 5 every year in our world. 12 million children died. Apparently little Jackie Paper's not one of them. This toll has also been cut by more than half in the last 15 years. That's millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of children who are not dying anymore. Also, more kids than ever are becoming educated, especially girls. In the 1980s, only half of girls in developing countries completed elementary school, and now 80% do. And here's some professor who says, we live at a time of the greatest development progress among the global poor in the history of the world. And so Kristof says, maybe we're mixed up because, in fact, poverty and income inequality associated with this impoverished, more and more Americans are falling into poverty. So we get mixed up. But the reality is, out there in the world and in what we think of as those poor, poor nations of the world, more and more people are actually, and this is what the folks who say, who support the globalization of the economy. Because they would say, hey guys, see, the reason people are living better in these countries is because of globalization. And that may in fact be true. It's pulling us down. It's pulling Americans living down, except for the rich, rich, rich. But it is bringing up others in the world. And then he ends with one more thing, and I will end with it too. There's one last false argument to puncture, says Christoph. Cynics argue that saving children's lives or any lives is pointless because the result is overpopulation and these people just end up starving to death. He says, that's not true. And part of this wave of progress is there's a stunning drop in birth rates in developing countries. Statistic, Haitian women now average 3 children each. That's still too much. But in 1985, Haitian women averaged 6 children. So Haitian women in that small have cut their birth rate by half. In Bangladesh, women now average 2.2 children. That's way down. Indonesians, 2.3. And Christoph says, when the poor of this world know that their children will now survive, when they educate their daughters, when they have access to family planning, they have fewer children. Simple as that. So that's some good news. You didn't know. I'm just here to say. Hey, thank you all for a most unusual program, which I was certainly surprised to have. And it's all because of that great banned book event by my mother always says the UCLA, the ACLU. And maybe next year you'll come. I hope so. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.